Hey buddies, let's today start with 9.4, that is data cleaning and validation. We'll finish this chapter today, and with this we will discuss the objective questions which are behind your book, and we'll be wrapping up with 9.4, right? So let's look at what is data cleaning and validation. To start with, data cleaning simply means the process of correcting, because it's cleaning process, hence the data cleaning process talks about correcting or deleting something which is inaccurate, that is unwanted, corrupted, that is being ruined, improperly formatted, that means which is not in order, something which is duplicate or repeated, or any insufficient data from a data set, right? So data cleaning is what? Data cleaning is simply a process of correcting or deleting inaccurate, corrupted, improperly formatted, duplicate or insufficient data from a data set, right? Now please remember, data cleaning is completely different from data transformation, right? Let's understand what's the difference between two. Data cleaning, as we have already discussed, it's a process of removing irrelevant data from a data set, right? As we already discussed here, whereas data transformation talks about the changing data from one format or structure to another, right? So transformation means what? From changing from one to another. So when we change the data from one format or structure to another, that is called as data transformation. So data cleaning primarily is the removal of any irrelevant data there is in the data set, that is there in the data set, and data transformation is basically changing data from one format or structure to another, right? Data transformation is also known as data wrangling or data munging, right? So in case the question asks you what is data transformation or data wrangling or data munging, it is one and the same. Please don't get confused, right? Now let's move on with the steps for data cleaning, right? So let's start with the first step. The first step talks about removal of duplicate or irrelevant information. Fine, this is what we have read in the definition also of data cleaning. You basically remove anything in which there is a duplicacy or the information which is not required or which is irrelevant, right? Now duplication happens at the time of data collection. Whenever you collect the data, there is a very highly likelihood that duplication may happen. That is, you may collect same type of data again. So when data sets are merged from various sites or collected from various customers or departments, there is a likelihood of duplication, hence deduplication. Deduplication means removal of duplication. Activities shall be undertaken. So you have to ensure that there is no duplication that is there. If there is any, you have to make sure that it is being removed or a deduplication process is done. Now observations are irrelevant when they don't cater to a specific topic, right? You have collected a lot of data, but supposedly whatever the task of your data collection is and the material that you have collected is basically not relevant to it, then obviously that has to be removed. So that's what this point talks about. It says that observations are irrelevant when they don't cater to a specific topic. Deduplication make analysis more effective. Yes, because we have more condensed data. So whatever analysis we are making, that becomes easier for you to decode and reduce distractions from the core topics, right? So whatever is required, your focus is always there. So unwanted or unnecessary information is being eliminated completely. So first point of step of data cleaning step is removal of duplicate or irrelevant information, right? The second one is fix structural errors. Now what is structural error? Structural error, while measuring or transferring data, one may come across typing error, unusual naming standards, etc., right? So there may be a typo error, or you may name the standard inappropriately. So basically these are the structural errors, so they need to be rectified. That's what we call as fixing of structural error. This may lead to mislabeled classes or groups, right? So the classification may go wrong. For example, you may say NA or not applicable. They both mean the same. They both may be present, but they should be examined as a single category. Yes or no? If I say NA or if I say not applicable, they both are the same. But we have to make sure that these are categorized into one, right? So you cannot have it as different classes altogether. Hence, these are the structural errors that are to be fixed, right? So the second point we did is fixing of the structural errors, right? Okay, then we move on to the third one. Third one talks about filtering unwanted outliers, right? Now what is outlier? Outlier simply means a thing that is detached from the main body or system, right? Which doesn't pertains to the core of the core idea, then that is called as an outlier. So you have to make sure that these outliers which are unwanted are being removed. So outlier simply means things detached. That means they are not relevant to the main body or the system, right? If there is a genuine need to eliminate an outlier, such an erroneous data input, that is incorrect data input, same should be done to improve the performance of the data to be analyzed. So it says if there is a genuine need to eliminate an outlier such as erroneous data input, same should be done to improve the performance of the data to be analyzed. Outliers shall be deleted only if it is unrelated to the analysis or an error. You may have outliers, but you have to make sure that these outliers, if they are irrelevant only, they are being removed, right? There may be some part which may be relevant to the core area, so you have to make sure that data they are retained, but something which is irrelevant has to be removed, right? So 3 points we have done till now. As a which are the steps of data cleaning are: first of all, you remove the duplicate or the irrelevant information, you fix the structural errors, and you filter the unwanted outliers, right? Okay, then we move on to the fourth one. Fourth one talks about handling missing data, right? So algorithms do not accept missing values. So if there is any algorithm or a series of chain or a flow chart, then in that case you have to make sure that the all values are being incorporated which are relevant, right? If you do not have proper values in place, then the algorithms won't work properly. Hence, missing data shall not be ignored. So you have to make sure whatever data is required, that are being pre-fed properly. Alternatives to deal with missing data: if there is a case of missing data, then what you can do: first of all, observation with missing values may be dropped, but they may also lead to loss of information. Now if the missing values doesn't have much of a relevance, then they can be dropped, right? They need not be taken into consideration. But if at all that may lead to the loss of information, then in that case it can be a problematic thing. So in that case the missing values are mandatory. Then you have to make sure that they are being incorporated, right? So basically algorithms won't accept any kind of missing values, so missing values shall not be ignored. How do you deal with it? First of all, if there is any missing values that may be dropped, you can do that, but make sure that doesn't lead to any loss of information. The second one is missing numbers may be entered based on other observations, right? So missing numbers, if any are there, may be based on the other observations also. There's a probability of data integrity being compromised since actions may be based on assumptions than real observations, right? So data integrity, that means the genuinity of a data can be compromised if at all it is based on assumptions and not on the real observations. So these are the two tips that you have to make sure, which are the alternatives to deal with the missing data, right? Finally, we move on to the last one, which is called as validation and QA. QA is nothing but question answers. For basic validation, essential questions shall be answered for data cleaning process, like whether data makes sense, whether data that you are collecting are relevant or not, whether data complies to regulations applicable, are they adhering to the standards or the regulations that are in place, etc. Right? So basic validation, essential questions shall be answered. So the important point here is essential questions shall be answered. That's what the point validation and QA talks about. False assumptions can lead to ineffective strategies and decisions. That's what we even spoke here also. If the assumptions are not made properly, that may lead to ineffective strategies and incorrect decision making. So you have to make sure that whatever assumptions are being made, they coincide or they are parallel to the core area that we are concentrating on, right? It is also essential to imbibe a culture of quality data. Whatever data is there, it should have certain quality. The quality of the data shall be maintained, come what may. Proper method shall be laid down to establish that culture, right? Just get an idea of what these points are trying to tell you, but please memorize it, because if they ask you the question, what are the steps, you should be able to highlight the one in the red, but information in between, I think you should be able to elaborate certain points, like for example here, outliers, what do they mean? You can make them understand, or you can make a note of that. Handling missing data, if you write these alternatives, they will help you to score good marks in it, right? So let's repeat once again, or let's revise once again, what are the steps for data cleaning. First of all, you have to make sure that there is a removal of duplicate or irrelevant information. Secondly, you have to make sure you fix the structural errors. Third one is you have to filter the unwanted outliers. Then you handle the missing data. For that, there are two alternatives. And finally, you talk about validation and QA, right? Okay. Now, what are the benefits of quality data? Okay. I remember it in an easier way. The benefits of quality data, you can say VACC. There is something called as a VLCC, if you have heard about. That's a weight losing program that is conducted by some organization or a private entity. I remember it in an easier way. Replace this L by A. So that VLCC is nothing but has been replaced by A and becomes VACC, and these are the benefits of quality data. That's my way of remembering. If you have a better way, you can do that. What are the main characteristics? Validity, accuracy, completeness, and consistency, right? So the benefits of quality data is having those main characteristics, that is VACC, that is validity, accuracy, completeness, and consistency. You can elaborate on your own, nothing much to go in between the lines. Okay, now what are the various benefits of data cleaning? Okay, what is the first benefit? First is error correction, right? Error correction when the data is large, right? So if you do a data cleaning process in a proper way, you can make sure that if there are any errors, they are corrected, especially when the data is very large. It can also lead to fewer mistakes, right? Which can result in what? Which can result in satisfied customers and workers. Okay. Third one talks about they can map many functions and planned use of data. So you can make sure that many functions are executed with the help of proper data cleaning, and the use of data is very well planned. Then if you got to monitor mistakes, it helps you to rather monitor mistakes and improve reporting. At initial stage of mistake, it is easier to repair inaccurate or damaged data. So if you find the error in the initial stage of data collection itself, then you can make sure that whatever mistake is there, you can repair it with ease, right? Finally, you talk about use of data cleaning technologies can lead to effective corporate procedures and speedier decision making, right? So what are the various benefits of data cleaning? First of all, it talks about error correction when the data is large. You talk about fewer mistakes. That can result in what? It can result in satisfied customers as well as the employees or the workers. You can map many functions and you can have a planned use of data. Fourth one is monitoring mistakes and improve reporting. At initial stage, it is easier for you to repair the inaccurate or the damaged data. And finally, use of data cleaning technologies can lead to effective corporate procedures, and obviously it can help you in making speedier decision making, right? So these are the benefits of data cleaning, right? Finally, we talk about data validation, right? What is data validation? If initial data is not valid, outcomes will not be accurate. So whatever data you have collected, its validation is very, very important. So that validity, or what you call as a genuineness, has to be ascertained. Unless and until it is validated in a proper way, the outcomes or the results will not be accurate. Okay, with data integration systems which can automate validation procedures, validation can be considered as an integral part of the workflow. So validation plays a very pivotal role as far as the flowchart or the workflow is concerned. Fine. Along with the validation of data inputs and values, data model validation is equally important. So it's not only validation, it's basically data model validation that is all the more important. Not only your inputs and the values, but data model validation also plays a very important role as far as the entire process is concerned. If data models are not validated properly, it may lead to problems attempting to use data files in various programs and software. So validation is not done, eventually that will lead to problems which pertains directly to data files which are in various programs and the software. So that's what the data validation is all about. Okay, what are the various types of data validation? Again, I have a technique of learning, of memorizing it. If you have a better way, you can do that. I remember it as in DU, that is Delhi University, there is an institute called as SRCC, that is Sri Ram College of Commerce. I just replaced this S by F, so that becomes DU FRCC, right? So if someone asks me what are the types of data validation, the first thing that comes to my mind is DU has SRCC, right? So rather S, I put in just F and that becomes my answer. So let's figure out what is this DU FRCC, which talks about the types of data validation, right? First one is D. D stands for data type check. Okay, what does data type check talks about? Enter data has appropriate data type. Okay, for example, field may take only numerical values, but if there are letters or special symbols, they shall be ignored, right? Because the data type check talks only about the numerical values, so if there are any letters or any symbols, that has to be eliminated or that shall be ignored, not taken into account, right? Second one is U. U talks about uniqueness check. Okay, for example, PAN or email ID, this check ensures that an item is put into a database numerous times, right? So PAN or email ID are basically unique and they are one of the ways of doing data validation. So U stands for uniqueness check. PAN or email ID can be the best examples of that. Okay, then we come to F. F talks about the format check, right? Now adherence to a set format, there has to be format that has to be complied with. For example, in case of a date, it can be DD MM YY or YY MM DD, right? date month year or year month date, depending on what country you are working in, or what is your pattern, or what is the standard that you are adhering to, right? So that's what the format check talks about. It is very essential for data or temporal consistency. So if you got to maintain a consistency, you got to make sure that the format is in a proper way. Then we talk about R. R talks about range check. Okay, it determines whether input data falls inside a specific range or not. The data that you have fed in, whether that is within the specific range or not. For example, if there is a geographic data, then the latitude generally is between -90 and +90. So you have to make sure that the latitude ranges between -90 and +90. Similarly, if it is a longitude, then that must range between -180 and +180 degrees. So that's a perfect example of range check, right? Then we talk about C. C talks about the code check. Code check says fields values picked from legitimate set of options. Legitimate means legal or which is within the standards, right? So fields values picked from a legitimate set of options, or it complies to specific formatting requirements, right? For example, it is very easy to verify the validity of a postal code by comparing it to the list of all valid codes. So if you have entire list of it and you have to select a specific postal code, then the code check system comes into the place, right? So the fifth one is C. Finally, you talk about another C, which is consistency codes. Now, the form of logical check that verifies that the data has been input in a consistent manner. So the check that ensures that the data has been put in a very consistent or a standardized format, that is called as a consistency code. For example, if you take a simple case of delivery, say in an Amazon or a Flipkart, a package delivery date is later than a shipment date. Yes or no? They will ship first and then only it will get delivered. So you have to make sure the consistency is being adhered to. First the shipment is done, and finally finally your package is being delivered, right? Okay, let's revise this once again. Types of data validation. You remember it in a form of DU-FRCC. D simply says about data type check. Type check is nothing but it has, for example, can be if only numerical values has to be taken. In that case, you ignore what? You ignore the letters or the symbols. Then you talk about the uniqueness check. We spoke about the PAN or the email ID. Format check, DDMMYY or YYMMDD. Then you talk about the range check. Remember the latitude and longitude. Latitude must be between -90 and +90. Similarly, if it is longitude, it should be between -180 and +180. You talk about the code check. Code check talks about what? For example, can be of a postal code from the entire list of the codes that you have. Finally, you talk about the consistency. That means it is done in a very synchronized order. That means, for example, if it is a delivery, then the package should be shipped first. The package should be shipped first, and then it should be delivered, right? So that's how the types of validation work. With this, we finish 9.4. Right, and with this we finish the entire 9th chapter. If you have not seen my previous videos, please have a look at it. And I've covered all the topics in a very easy to learn language. So please run through it. You should be very comfortably able to understand it, and rather you should be able to reproduce it in the exams, right? Okay, let's come to the multiple choice questions. Not only based on this chapter but the previous ones that we have done. So let's discuss that. First one is data science plays an important role in risk analytics, customer data management, consumer analytics, all the above. The correct answer is all the above. Data science talks about everything. It talks about data analytics also, customer data management, consumer analytics, everything. So all of the above is the correct answer. The second one is the primary benefit of data distribution. Data distribution is something which we have done in the previous video, that is 9.3. Data distribution talks about the estimation of the probability of any certain observation within a sample space. So if that is done within a sample space, that is the primary benefit of data distribution, and that is your correct answer. This is again in chapter 9.3. Then you talk about binomial distribution. We did various types of distributions. Again, this is again a part of chapter 9.3. Binomial distribution, see, bi simply means what? Bi has to be 2, right? So the option that that is the correct answer is option number A, because that talks about that are categorized into 2 mutually exclusive and exhaustive classes. Everything is 3 less than 2 or 4, so it is exactly 2. That's why it is called as binomial. Bi here means 2, right? Then we talk about the geometric distribution is a discrete distribution that is again this is again we have discussed in 9.3. 9.3 is very, very important from exam perspective. So please make sure that you revise 9.3 properly. Geometric distribution is a discrete distribution that basically assess the probability occurrence of the first success. You can run through that video. I've explained it very clearly what does geometric distribution actually means. Finally, we talk about the probability density function describes. Probability density function, we have read it as PDF. If you remember, PDF is basically a part of continuous distribution, right? So if you have done continuous distribution, PDF was a part of it. PDF simply means the characteristics of a random variable, and these are the MCQs that are there. Then we go to true or false. Okay, the first one is data validation could be operationally defined as a process which ensures the correspondence of final data with a number of quality characteristics. The answer is true. Data analysis is described as the process of cleaning, converting, modeling data to obtain actionable business intelligence. Again, this is true. Financial data such as revenues, accounts receivables, and net profits are often summarized in a company's data reporting. Yes, that is again true. Structured data consists of tabular information that may be readily imported into a database and then utilized by analytics software or other applications. Yes, that is again true. And finally, data distribution is a function that identifies and quantifies all potential values for a variable as well as their relative frequency, probability of how often they occur. Again, this is true, right? Now finally we come to the fill in the blanks. Fill in the blanks is data may be classified as what? They may be classified as restricted. The correct answer is private or public by an entity. So data may be classified restrict, private, or a public entity. This is in chapter 9.2, and there is a table that we did. If you haven't seen that, please see that. It is data classification matrix that we discussed. In that matrix, there we discussed about the classification of the data, which can be in the form of restricted, private, or public entity, right? When we talk about the data, second question, data organization is dash of unstructured data into distinct groups. Data organization is the classification. Data organization is the classification of unstructured data into distinct groups. Classification, frequency distribution table, these are all dash, graphical representation, etc. are examples of data organization techniques. Data organization we did, and the correct answer here is image representation. Then we talk about the distribution or students distribution is probability distribution with a bell shape that is symmetrical about its mean. Again, if you remember, student distribution is a type of continuous distribution. Again, we have done that in 9.3, so that's the correct answer. And finally, just we did right now, data cleaning is the process of correcting or deleting inaccurate, corrupted, improperly formatted, duplicate or insufficient data from a data set, which we did in 9.4, right? So with this we finished chapter 9 itself. In the next video we will be starting with 10, and that's all about today. If you really like the content, please make sure you press the like button and make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that whatever updates or whatever new videos we come up with, you get the notifications for that, right? Thank you for joining, and very happy learning. Bye bye.